But anyway, our guest, Andrew Demeter, we showed you his video in the very beginning. It is actually an interesting story. His video almost wasn't, able to be seen. He actually almost lost the footage. And, he almost wasn't able to recover his Pelosi footage.
Well, why is that, Mike?
Well, that's actually because a good question. I think he had an error with his phone. I'm not really sure. Something about the card didn't save and he had to recover it. But we'll have to ask Andrew. But how did you hear about Andrew, Kristan?
Well, all of a sudden I saw his grimy mug all over the internet. It's like, I know that snot-nosed kid. No, I'm just kidding. But, we've had him on the show a few times, and I saw it. I was like, no way. I was like, get the heck out of here. I was like, that's great for liberty. I was actually really excited that another person that, we've been involved with and that we get to share our platform with is doing well. And that they actually had an opportunity to ask some real questions from Nancy Pelosi.
Although it may not have been
really
expected.
Flustered.
Right.
She was flustered by that question. She was doing some crazy hand magic
she was
thing.
Building.
She was like, hocus pocus, look at my hands, don't pay attention to my words.
Well, a lot of times, they're building the illusion there for you. But I do believe we have Andrew Demeter of Teen Take on. Andrew, you with us?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Andrew? Second time on with us. We appreciate you coming on, man. We were just giving our descriptions of Pelosi, building with her hands, the wonderful tales she told you there.
I thought she was doing some kind of hocus pocus thing there.
As one person put it in some comments, I think it might have been on Live Leak, the commenter said she was conjuring spirits even. But thanks again for having me on, Kristan and Mike. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. What you did was awesome. And Kristan made a little point there where, I don't think Pelosi was expecting any type of confrontation, real questioning, anything like that. It wasn't necessarily like a Q&A session.
She definitely wasn't ready for your brains, dude.
No, not at all.
I'd have to kind of correct you there, Mike, because the thing was, I was in D.C., for those who don't know, I don't know if you prefaced it, but I was in D.C. because I pretty much, this kind of dovetailed off of what I was on the podcast for last time.
Absolutely, right.
Which was my GMO documentary. So I was in D.C. meeting Pelosi was one of the kind of events on this itinerary for going to D.C. for winning the C-SPAN documentary competition. And I agree with you. I think she thought she was kind of trying to glad hand her way through there, just smile and take no legitimate questions. But like I said, I was going to correct you. I wasn't expecting it to kind of be this Q&A forum either, but when we first got there, Leader Pelosi introduced herself as if we didn't know her or whatever, and then she shook everyone's hands, and then she said, if you have any questions pertaining to your documentary, then, you can ask a question. So I kind of had this NSA question planned ahead of time, so I thought, oh, well, this is really convenient. Thanks for making my job even easier. So then I was the last person to ask one of the questions. Obviously, my documentary was on GMOs, so she wasn't expecting it, but it was funny too, because I have the full video. It's like a 15-minute video from C-SPAN and of everyone meeting with Pelosi, and all the questions before mine, she answered fairly intelligently and articulately, and then when it came to mine, you could just tell that everything kind of just broke down and burned.
Yeah, and it seems like a question like that shouldn't really throw her that off base, being in the position that she's in. A question about NSA spying should be something that, she feels strongly about, and she should be able to give you a real answer. But yet, it was a lot of dancing and
she's been washing too many feet lately.
Right.
What she's been doing, Pelosi she actually got down on her hands and knees when was washing feet with the Pope.
That's the important point to bring up, though, Mike, because you're saying she should be able to answer these questions, and I think it would say so much more about her. For her credibility, at least, even if she gave a ridiculous answer, even if she said, I support the NSA because I think all Americans are terrorists, even if she gave me an answer like that, at least she'd be answering it honestly and what she feels about it. But when she kind of just gives no answer whatsoever, it's really just disconcerting, and it shows how far gone these supposed representatives are from the American people.
It also show that they care. Does that? I mean, did you get that she even cares about it?
Well, I mean, the way
On
she
that
answered
stage?
the question, not really. I mean, in the past, she's called Edward Snowden a traitor or a criminal, or called for his extradition or whatever. So, I mean, it's ridiculous that these people just don't believe in the Constitution, and like I said, they're not really representative of the American people.
And it just seems ridiculous the way that they are able to deflect, you know, and then the fact that social media and the internet brings these moments to the people. So, you know, she had this moment of bizarre behavior due to your question, and, you know, look at the attention that it received. I mean, you were on every, you know, mostly conservative news station doing
Yeah,
the local
no,
news
no MSNBC
yeah, what
or
is up with
CNN.
that? Why wouldn't
Yeah,
they?
you know, it's for whatever reason, you know,
MSNBC, anyways.
for whatever reason, I just can't put my finger on it. But you know, no liberal outlets picked up the video.
It was almost as if you were some type of sabotage, like you were the plan, like let's get Demeter in there so he could spring this question. Like it was this long planned out deal where they were like, there's no way we're giving him any attention for this. You know, you should be able to show the politicians and the reaction, like, hey, look at this kid asking a real question and look at how she reacted. I mean, anyone who watches the video, obviously a million people have seen it, you know, she acted very bizarrely. There's really no
Is that
arguing.
even a word, Mike? Bizarrely?
I don't know. You were
Isn't it just bizarre? I'm just giving you
well, yeah. You know, I don't really know if it is or not.
a verbal disaster.
Good point, Kristan. I'm
Sorry,
not
it has
sure.
nothing to do with what we're talking about, though.
Acting more bizarre. Thank you. We need to call on the source there. Thank you.
Definitely. Well, it's way cool. How was the mainstream media circuit, per se? Did they treat you pretty good? Did they have any questions? Did they come after you at all?
The only mainstream outlet I was really on was Fox, and that was kind of unsurprising because even though I obviously appreciate the fact that they had me on, you know, it was just a way to push their conservative agenda, which I'm not necessarily against, but, you know, Fox is all Republican, conservative, and it's the two-party illusion and everything. So that was an interesting talking point that I kind of came up with in the video too, or that Pelosi really gave me, was the fact that she just, like you said earlier, Mike, she just deflected all responsibility on the NSA to Bush. And I've said this in past interviews, I'm not for Bush, I'm not for Pelosi, but fact is, Bush essentially set up the framework and the blueprint for the NSA with the Patriot Act post 9/11. And Leader Pelosi and the Obama administration have only expanded that, yet she's saying now the Bush administration went too far, which is pretty ironic. But getting back to the mainstream media topic, I mean, it's been great for the most part. Probably my favorite interview was on RT with Abby Martin. That was a great deal of fun. And other than that, I was on Alex Jones. To be honest, that wasn't really too exciting. And then other than that, I got 2 articles on the Blaze that covered it, and it was on the Drudge Report too. But other than that, it's
Just a little bit of exposure, nothing really.
Well, it's more than a little bit. Let's be
I'm just
honest.
kidding, you guys
Hey, and
are-
by the way, Smarty, bizarrely is a word, so I just looked it up.
Mike's been looking it up.
I
and finding-
had to because Mr. Shot Caller over here has to call me out live on the air, and you know, just by the way, it is a word. So there you go. No, seriously though, the attention that you received is excellent. Even though, like, it doesn't seem a big deal, like InfoWars, it really is a big deal because of the amount of listeners that actually tune in to a guy like Alex Jones on a daily basis. You're talking millions and millions of people that are hearing, you know, these stories of, you know, what you did, and it's actually, you know, reaching an audience that may not have even known or seen it. A lot of Jones listeners might not even watch Fox News anymore, and vice versa. A lot of Fox watchers aren't going to be tuned into InfoWars necessarily. So the fact that Fox carried it doesn't really surprise me. You know, obviously they have their own grudges against the liberal media and the Obama administration. So they, of course, wanted to make Pelosi look bad. But I think they were a little nervous to have you on, Andrew, and I think that's why you didn't get tons and tons of media exposure in the mainstream, because, you know, you're a little unpredictable to them. You might be a little too smart for your own britches there. Then they don't know what they're getting into. Remember, we had our little talk before you went on Fox there, and, you know, he sprung on you, and you let him have it. You said, you know what, I'm just asking the real questions. I'm doing my job, paraphrasing, but, you know, go ahead.
It was funny, though, too, when I was on Cavuto, because it wasn't live, even though he had a live show. Not that that means much of anything, but it was funny because looking back, I didn't see Cavuto when I was doing the interview or whatever because it was recorded and it wasn't live. But looking back, when I did kind of call out the mainstream media a little bit, his reaction was really interesting because it looked like he had like a little grin, very subtle, but it looked like it was there when I mentioned that. So it really makes you wonder if these mainstream puppets almost are kind of aware of what's happening, and they're not necessarily going to stand for it. But also, like you said, Mike, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that, you know, this has gotten so much exposure. But I think it's most important for people and viewers and listeners to know that this isn't really about me asking a question. It's about the fact that these politicians, like I mentioned earlier, are no longer really representative of the people, and they're not really accountable to their vote, which is kind of ironic. And so this whole exposure, it's not about me. You know, a lot of people that I know are like, oh, you're a famous celebrity or whatever. I don't want that. It's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is what I just said, that these politicians are unaccountable, and we need to assume the role that the mainstream media isn't and go out and ask legitimate questions.
And honestly, how easy it really can be. Obviously, you put a lot of hard work into the video that got you into that position, but once you were in the correct position, how easy it actually was just to, you know, fire off a real question and cause a little controversy.
And for posterity's sake, I don't think I'll ever be given quite that opportunity again.
Well, it was like that there was never a quality debate about the situation. It was like, yeah, I've never had this conversation before. That's what was so frightening about her reaction, you know? I mean, the fact that she doesn't have a clear opinion.
Well, she didn't even have like a programmed lie. She didn't have like a response for it. She didn't have anything.
Well, the programmed lie was it's Bush's fault.
Right. Well, what a surprise there. I would have never saw that coming.
Pass the buck.
You would think that was the media saying that, but you're talking about an official that's elected here. I mean, come on now.
That's an official victim statement is what that is, you know?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean it's just been crazy again to see her response and everything. And then one of the funniest parts about it too was in the middle of my question, her legislative assistant that you can see in my first angle from the cell phone, she, right after I fire the question, or before it, she's all smiles and everything, and then right after I fire the question, then she just bites her lip, picks up her phone, starts like texting. She has like two phones in her hand, so who knows what information she was writing down about me and everything. And then they
or tweeting out or whatever.
Yeah, no one texts faster than an angry woman, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then Pelosi, she had some photographer there like taking pictures and everything. So who knows what dirt they're trying to dig up on me now.
At least they didn't box you out, like take you down like they did to Matt
Mills.
Mills.
He's 16. What kind of bullies would they be?
Who knows? We've seen it all. We've seen it all. And you know, I wanted to stress though, the other faces on the other kids you were with were kind of priceless. There was a girl in the front. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but she was
Shelley.
Right in front of you, and she was just kind of like shaking her head when Pelosi was just rambling about, and she's like, yes.
She was watching the hands.
And then Peter right next to me, he was in the middle. His face, he looked like he was trying to hold in some pretty big laughs and everything. Looks like he almost couldn't contain himself. Not that I want to put words in their mouths, but yeah, that was hilarious. And I mean, it was just an incredible experience, really, and to ask these people, just like I said, a legitimate question and see how they squirm all around.
And it really did cause that moment, because, you know, it wouldn't have gone viral. It wouldn't have got so much attention if people wouldn't have been able to see how uncomfortable it really was.
Well, and besides, everyone really hates NSA spying, don't they?
Well,
Everyone
they don't like,
wants their
and
privacy.
they don't like politicians that aren't accountable either. What were you going to say?
If you have nothing to hide, then why do you care about privacy?
Well, because without privacy, you can't have freedom. You can't maintain any of your constitutional rights. At some point, we all commit a crime, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, too many Americans don't grasp that concept.
Yeah, well,
or even know about it. They don't even really care. That's the problem. And Andrew, didn't you have a problem with your video when you first had this encounter? Didn't you actually lose the video? Because I know I briefly brought that up in the beginning of the show, but I didn't remember how you actually lost the footage.
Correct. There's two angles that you see in the video. The first angle, that's kind of poor quality, is from my cell phone, and then the other angle is a camera that C-SPAN had there. So going into the confrontation, my phone's had problems with storage and memory in the past, and just my luck that in the middle of the confrontation my phone runs out of memory. So that day I went to lunch, and then so right after we left the Capitol, the meeting with Pelosi, one of C-SPAN's employees, they asked me if I was going to put the footage that I recorded on YouTube. And I said, why does it really matter or whatever? And then he said, well, we wouldn't want to hurt our relationship with Pelosi's office or whatever. And I don't think that's like anything, really weird, because obviously they just probably want special access like we had that day. So then when I was eating lunch, I looked at my phone, and the whole video, when I stopped recording on my phone, was 8 minutes long. And then that day when I went to lunch, I went to go review the footage, and the last 4 minutes magically disappeared. So that makes it sound conspiratorial, though, because it's not, because I've had these problems in the past. But anyways, so then I went on my fan page, even though I don't really like calling it that, and I said, how do you recover footage? Because I know I've seen people do it in the past, but since I have a cell phone, I knew it was probably different. And I had no luck recovering the footage for like a week after that. And then finally, when I got back home from DC, I emailed C-SPAN, asked them if I could have the footage. They essentially said we had this agreement with Pelosi's office that we couldn't record audio, which I found interesting because the C-SPAN cameraman, and I have a screenshot from the video to prove it, had this microphone and was recording audio the whole time. So essentially I ended up winning
that was
back.
Approved media, right? That's the fourth branch of government right there.
Yeah, supposedly the fourth branch, but they don't really keep the government in check and public officials in check. So eventually I got back the footage from C-SPAN after a lot of wrangling and everything, and then I had to send them a flash drive. The first time it didn't get there. Then I had to send another one, and then finally they sent it back and everything. So it was a lot of work, but thankfully it paid off.
And their video did have audio, right?
Correct.
Yeah, see, look at all these hoops they made you jump through to get the video, and I couldn't really remember if you had recovered the video via the process. I know Luke and Popeye from Federal Jack did features on how to recover.
Yeah, I tried recovering it, and I had so many problems within that itself, but I ended up not recovering the last 4 minutes of the video. So the first 4 minutes you see are just the footage that I had that day that was recorded. So I never recovered anything. That was just all that was recorded, and I only used like 30 seconds of that because the first like 3 minutes of that were just me holding the phone at my side and just Pelosi's voice in the background.
Either way, I mean, the whole plan worked out. You did a really good job. And then going back to when you were on Cavuto, you mentioned that he had that little grin. And, I think, these guys see a guy like you, a young kid, got his stuff together, a nice delivered question, and they see a little bit of themselves. They see that's little Cavuto there. He sees himself as a respectable
right?
journalist. At Fox News, it's Neil Cavuto. He's got this career, and he sees flashes of himself in you, Andrew.
Yeah, only to be not egotistical about it. I mean, only if more people, as a lot of comments have said, would kind of do what I do. And again, it's not about me. It's just kind of the spirit of what I did. The fact that even though maybe it makes you uncomfortable, I mean, in actuality, I'm an introvert, but you have to kind of overcome these obstacles of fear and do what other people aren't going to do, because you believe in your heart that you have this passion to ask a question that nobody else is going to ask, and it's contingent upon the future of our country.
What do you think?
Oh,
what do you think was going around the White House that day? That Pelosi got pwned by a 16-year-old. I mean, that's the way it would have been portrayed. You would have thought.
Obama's
what does that say about
already
her? Does that say that she's qualified for that position? Even? I mean, maybe they should give it to you, Andrew. Huh?
Obama's probably already got some drone strike executive order pending.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're not going to get anywhere near him. They're not going to let you unless you start working for the CIA.
I think that's a far stretch of the imagination.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, if they don't come for you next year, by the time you're 18, man, they're going to be knocking at your door. They're going to be trying to recruit your ass. I already know.
No one offer you a job, Andrew, after that?
Oh, there's got to be. They're going to be coming. They're going to be coming.
Or they're going to be running the other way.
No, I think the new media, even if it's local, respects this type of journalism. The dying mainstream media may not, but we all know that's kind of going away. As you saw what you did, making the video, you saw now the process of how real media works. The alternative media, has the scoop right away. They're the ones that push these stories out. Then, the bigger blogs and news sites get it. Then the local news gets it.
Well, why do you think they're attacking the alternative press media so bad? If we're so legitimate, why would they even spend their time trying to attack the alternative press media? I mean, obviously, the whole scene is changing. And I think a lot of them are accepted that, at some point they're going to either have to get on board with the message of liberty and freedom and help switch this boat around, or the alternative press is going to just end up taking over.
Well, I mean, Dianne Feinstein, if my memory serves me, she doesn't even think the alternative media or whatever she phrased it should have the First Amendment. So it just shows, we're so illegitimate that we're not allowed to voice our opinions.
Yeah, we need special government press passes to ask questions, apparently. Otherwise, you might ask a real question and cause 1 million views on YouTube, and you can't have that when there's an election coming up. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, speaking of elections, too, some candidate in California, because that's Leader Pelosi's state, some person running for some position there against Pelosi, posted the video on their blog or something. It's just funny how people try to push their agendas.
Well, absolutely.
Well, it's propaganda, nonetheless. They can use it as propaganda,
right? And they can use it any way they want. They can use it to show the spying angle. They can use it to make Pelosi look bad. They have a couple different options, and I'm sure that's why Fox jumped on it. Not to hate, but we all know how it is.
Exactly.
The point is, though, that, the real question, that's, I think, what everybody needs to take away from this. And, I don't know, like you mentioned being an introvert, you have to, I think, does it make you more confident seeing other guys like Luke and Adam Kokesh, watching other people on YouTube, kind of learning from them? Is that what you did to kind of make yourself more comfortable to even handle this situation? Or, I mean, how did you really gain the confidence to even do that? Because I don't think a lot of people are even able to, get the question out. They may spoil the opportunity. You could have been there and just let it slip through your hands. You know what I mean?
Right. I think where I got the motivation, the confidence, I really don't know. I said in an interview with The Blaze, Glenn Beckside, I kind of just said, it was one of those moments, those opportunities where you just tell yourself, kind of like I interviewed Matt Mills a while ago, the hijacker of the Super Bowl, and I kind of think I felt what Matt felt, in that he said, I'm either going to do this or I'm not. And what other opportunity am I, when's another time when I'm going to be given this opportunity? And the answer is probably never again. So I mean, you just need to ask the questions. You just need to go out there and do it, not worry about the consequences. And I think that's really the message of it. And then, kind of to transition a little bit, I did find it funny that really no outlets that covered this story picked up on it. And that was the fact that when I asked the second question to Leader Pelosi, I said, "Isn't the NSA a violation of the Fourth Amendment?" And she essentially just blatantly says no. I mean, obviously the whole other part of the video of all her
Gibberish,
actions and
right.
everything, I mean, that's entertaining. But, I mean, the core of this, I think, is that second question where she just says no. So, again, it just shows how detached these supposed representatives and politicians are from not only the American people, but the Constitution, the legislation to which they swore an oath to when they were given their position in office.
Right, and I believe, paraphrasing, she like just basically said, "We need the NSA." Like, what are you talking about, kid? Like,
He said
we
there's
need
parts
this.
of it you could possibly argue that are unconstitutional.
Yeah, I was pretty confused when she said that, because she said it serves these other good functions, and maybe I'm honestly just not researched enough on the NSA, but other than ubiquitous dragnet surveillance, I'm kind of confused as to what other functions the NSA has.
Data collection, metadata collection. That's all it is.
And but what good is this really doing? I mean, other than drone bombing Pakistan and starting more wars in Iraq and sending more troops to other locations. Oh yes, that's right. We're just gonna spy on the Americans and our allies in Germany and Britain, and don't worry about any of that though. We'll make profiles on everyone, and
don't take any videos of us though. Don't do that. But we're gonna have every moment of your life captured so we can replay it when you die, right,
it's
Mike?
always for the safety, and I think it's for the safety, and we don't need freedom, and as long as we're safe, everybody will be happy, right, Andrew?
Isn't that the irony of that's the irony of the whole situation, though? I mean, this is kind of like a revelation that just hit me. The fact is, like you just said, Kristan, we are like these lower echelon class of society, and we're allowed to be spied on. But bring a camera, audio record in a big name politician's office, and you get these comments of people saying you're going to be targeted by the IRS, you're going to be black bagged and sent off to Gitmo, and you're going to have black helicopters circling over your house. I mean, it's ridiculous for people to even think these things.
Well, that's the same way with immigration right now. They're letting them get carted straight into America, but we got checkpoints that us Americans have to go through, that they have to strip search us as the illegals
looking for drugs, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You got inland drug checkpoints, right? And meanwhile, you have the border patrol shipping in the illegal immigrants. So a lot of it is hypocrisy, right?
But it's ridiculous. It's complete hypocrisy. It's almost as if they're trying to set up a neo-feudalism system of kings and queens once again. So.
Well, that's really what they have developed, and with the elite class, it is a plutocracy. I mean, they've developed, a class of elite mixed with government, mixed with corporations, and, that's what it is. That's what they have, and they don't want to, I keep saying they, but it is this elite class. They don't want to give up the power that they have, gained over the last few decades. I mean, this has been a process through world wars, the military-industrial complex, and when you ask them a simple question about spying, someone who's a power player like Pelosi, someone who introduced UN Agenda 21, into Congress, these type of people don't like to be put on the spot for things they know truly what is going on,
It was like the immediate guilt set in. I mean, it was just priceless. And it was like she felt like bad that she had to lie to a 16-year-old on top of it. It was just like you could just see the saturation, a cloud of despair throughout the whole question. So it was awesome. Nonetheless, it was entertaining.
Thanks. Yeah, like you were saying, though, with all these corporations, I mean, my GMO documentary, that's essentially, well, that was kind of one of the facets that it exposed, the fact that government and corporations are so closely intertwined, and it's just at our expense. And these politicians, even if it requires lying to teenagers, like you said, Kristan, they're going to do whatever benefits them. And so long as they're not so blatantly confronted about it, then they're going to continue doing it, because the American people don't matter to them. And what only matters is what money's going into their pocket.
My question is what kind of individual is that? I'd feel sorry for their family members, things like that nature. If they could lie to just everyone, what kind of person is it? What kind of person do you have to be in order to be able to lie to people every day? I mean, I couldn't go home and look at myself in the mirror after a day like that. I'm sorry, guys. I don't see it, man. And then those are the same people that want to take your children through child protection services because the government wants your kids now because they want them early. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it's very disheartening, to see that kind of stuff, because they're supposed to be, right, according to the sheeple out there, immaculate and great description of what the American society is. And obviously, if we're lying to our kids and our children, we're just lying to ourselves. So.
Yeah, an interesting point one of my friends brought up too is he said, kind of like you were saying about looking at yourself in the mirror, and he said, I wonder what type of conversation ensued that evening at Pelosi's dinner table with her husband or whatever, and I don't know, it's just some kind of funny tidbit I thought
meeting with her other higher ups. Who knows?
Maybe he bought her a junior educational school book for her to read, so she can.
I doubt it.
I'm just thinking someone got fired in that office that day.
Yeah, probably someone, or the next day, right? And you know what else I was thinking, Andrew? Do you think, just in your opinion, because we speculate, but we don't have to, would this have gotten as much attention if it was, say, a guy like Kristan or myself, a little bit older? Do you think we would have got the same attention? You being a youthful teen, asking this more complex question. Do you think that's what led to the attention or more of it?
I think it was a lot of different factors that played into it, namely the facial expressions of some. But, that's an interesting kind of theory that you postulate. But I think the youth part is definitely a big factor in the virality of the video. And I think that brings me to an interesting point, too, because I think the fact is a lot of older people, and not to say Mike or Kristan, you guys are even old, but I think, if someone else did that, they wouldn't really have been able to get the clearance that I had in regard to the access that I got to Pelosi's office. So I think that it says a lot that the younger generation, the younger demographic, has these a lot better opportunities to ask the questions like I did through entering contests like I did, and just the fact that they're younger. If a politician like Leader Pelosi blows me off, that's going to go viral in and of itself, I think. So yeah, I think age definitely played a big part in.
Well, because a guy like me or Kristan, we'd just be viewed as regular press, and they could easily blow that off, like just don't ignore the question. Basically,
the next Wisconsin person to have access to anyone at the White House would win the Super Bowl, and we'd have to get one of the Packers to ask a question.
You'd have to fly in celebrities to ask questions. No, I think you're right, and I think the youth did help with the viral sense of the video. I think you're talking, you have almost 1 million views on your YouTube channel alone just for this video, not to mention all the other sites it's on.
Right.
I just don't know if it would have got that much attention if a regular Joe Schmo would have asked that question. So it really sets the stage, like you mentioned, for other youthful, I don't want to say kids, because they're young adults that are concerned with the direction of this country. You know what I mean? They're not just kids. And, they're really worried about this future that this elite plutocracy is setting up. And obviously, me and Kristan are here doing our thing, but we need to reach the younger people, and that's what Andrew's doing. And he's even reaching younger and training them at his age to ask real questions.
Well, it's
now.
impressive. It's impressive that somebody your age has a better grasp of what's really happening in the world than, let's say,
like my
most
parents?
of the elected officials and things of that nature. I think that is what is really scary to them. And this whole younger generation, we're seeing it even here in Wisconsin with the huge liberty movement really coming around, and a lot of people all agreeing on these liberty mind principles, obviously NSA spying being one of them, and civil liberties and things of that nature. There's a lot of things we all agree on, and we just need to come together to make those differences. And we need people like you to go out there and ask these real questions in front of cameras and take these opportunities. If they see somebody at the local restaurant and they're not representing you well, respectfully though, ask them questions.
Hey, and every video doesn't have to go viral. We're not
Yeah.
saying that everybody has to get 1 million views. Andrew, I think this is your biggest video ever, right? You haven't got him.
Yeah, probably by like 1,000-fold.
Yeah, so there you go. It's not like, he's just has a conveyor belt of million hit views coming out of every video. It's not.
Take puts out a new hit every other week.
Well, hey, some people are able to do that, but in reality, if you can ask a question and get something good on film and it gets a couple thousand views, that's your job. You got it out there. It just takes the right people to see it, and I think that's what you have to do. It's all putting yourself in position and asking the right questions, and I think that's what people need to take away from this. Andrew, we're in the last 5 minutes here, so I just want to open up the floor. If there's anything you're working on, anything you want to let us know about, otherwise give us the Twitters, YouTubes, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, Kristan, just in response to what you just said about the rising liberty movement in Wisconsin, I just want to say, I said this in another interview too, everyone in my view has this innate sense or desire for liberty, but I think that's all too often obstructed by the fact that government makes people so dependent on government itself. And I think that really obstructs people's view of liberty and of freedom because, in the case of the NSA specifically, people are so willingly trading their liberty for security, even though it's kind of false security. So I do think everyone has a desire for liberty, but I think it's all too often obstructed by government. So that's the last point I wanted to make. And then, Mike, in response to what you said, future projects, I told you when we were doing some mic checks before the show that I am working on, I just finished recording a new video on Iraq and everything that's going on there. So it's just like a short.
What's your opinion on that, real quick? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that a war has been going on for 1,500 years over who should succeed the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and I find that very disconcerting and kind of crazy that this whole war is based on ideology. But I think that as I kind of advocated in all my videos, that the United States needs to kind of mind its own business. We need to mend our problems here at home before going and supposedly helping people elsewhere, even though we're kind of just destroying their countries even more. So that's kind of my stance. I hold a non-interventionist foreign policy stance.
You're a terrorist. That's what you are.
Yeah, of course.
Lindsey
Of course.
Graham says we need to go over there right away, otherwise another 9/11 is going to happen because we're over there. So essentially he's saying that if we bring home the troops, there will be no attack on America, but we have to go there proactively and
exactly,
cause a war.
and that's the point that I brought up in the video too, because it was about Lindsey Graham's comments on this new 9/11 and everything. It's like, well, you're saying that this terrorism will ensue on American soil if we don't go over there. But at the same time, what was the whole pretext for the Iraq war and the war on terror, which was for oil, for resources, and that's terrorism, taking actions for political means, and that's exactly what it is. So it's complete irony and double talk, as we've seen in the past. But anyways, Mike, in closing, if anybody wants to see more of my work, they can go to youtube.com/teentake. And other than that, that's pretty much it. You can also go facebook.com/teentake. And I have a Twitter, but it's personal, so I don't really use that. And I'm also on Instagram @teentake. Should anybody be interested, if anybody even uses that. So
I see
yeah,
the
that's pretty much
Instagram
it.
numbers picking up. Let me tell you, I see people saying
people
join
add me
it.
on that all the time. I
don't
add
use
myself.
it either. I have it. I just don't use it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, I guess we're getting old, Kristan.
I think the
Yeah, I take really goofy pictures and put them on there. I'm like, nobody uses this, so I
don't
put
even
really
take 'em
bizarre
yet.
photos.
I think
on
the
there.
way to rise above in Instagram and reach those high follower numbers are taking pictures of Starbucks and anything you eat.
Your
yeah,
local
right.
cat,
You're
right?
correct. Then you will go viral, and you will easily get 1 million views. You are correct, Andrew. But we really appreciate you just coming on and hanging out with us, man. It's gonna
it's
be
good to be
fun
here.
to just
That's
hang out
awesome,
in
man.
the future and see where your career goes. Because I know you're gonna be involved in this for the long haul, man. And it's gonna be fun to see where you end up. Hopefully, not in the CIA.
We're
I was
excited. We're excited to see you be successful.
Right.
We're very happy.
Last thing I want to say, I was pondering this earlier today. I was just thinking this, and I thought it was kind of cool. I hope that someday my job of reporting and doing YouTube and everything will someday become obsolete because government will actually follow its original parameters and act within the law.
Or what about not exist at all? That would be awesome.
That's a great sentiment too.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's a whole separate discussion.
Well, at least
we'll
it's
save
much
that for
better
next
than what
time.
we have right now. That's
We'll
for sure.
save the anarchist debate for
But
the
it's
next
all
interview.
about nonviolence.
Right, you're absolutely right. Non-aggression principle, the golden rule. You are correct. Andrew Demeter, Teen Take. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on tonight,
Awesome,
man.
man. Have a good one.
Thank you guys.
There goes Andrew Demeter.